the Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.
Welcome to the Instructor Podcast. This is a show where I help you become an even more awesome driving instructor. As always, I am your splendid host, Terry Cook. I'm delighted to be here and even more delighted that you have chosen to listen because we've got a very special episode for you today, because one of the taglines for this show that I've used over the years is that we talk about your health, self, and wealth. And we are definitely looking at that today because we are talking to James McAleer, who is joining us to talk about his recent cancer diagnosis and subsequent recovery and how he's on the mend. He's got a very important message for all driving instructors as to basically how we need to be looking after ourselves and getting checked out. Now, I should just warn you, we do go into some topics quite a bit of detail. So if you are struggling with something at the minute, or if you know of someone that's struggling, please don't feel obliged to listen to this episode. I'll fully understand if you choose not to, but it's a really important message for driving instructors. And if you can, I highly suggest you listen. Jimmy also tells us a little bit about how he's raising money for Macmillan Cancer Support over Christmas by shaving his head in December, on Christmas Eve, in fact. And if you hang about to the end of the show, I will go into a bit more detail as to how I am supporting that and how I am attempting to raise money for him as well. But for now, let's get stuck into the episode. Today on the Instructor Podcast, I am joined by the one and only James McAleer. How are we doing, James?
I'm having a good day today, Terry. Thanks for asking. I feel good. How are you?
I am not bad at all. Is that all on the back of the Liverpool beating Fulham 4-3 yesterday?
What a game that was. That
Yes.
was brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. So, yeah. And also Man City only getting a draw at Tottenham. That was good. That was good. And that was an interesting end to a game. So that's all good. I had a good weekend. Well, I was pretty unwell over the weekend, but I mean, that was a little bit of a silver lining. Let's put it that way. The football was good.
Well, that unwell thing is kind of what we're here to talk about today, because fairly recently you completely revamped your driving school the way you did lessons. You completely restructured it and changed everything that you did, essentially. I don't think I'm over-dramatizing it there. And then just as that was kind of coming towards the end of the trial period, it's kicking into gear, you got some rather unfortunate news and you were diagnosed with cancer. And that's what we've come to talk about today. Now, I specifically wanted you to come on. I've recorded a similar episode with Keith Woodward before because I think it's important to talk about this stuff and get the message out there, and also want to give you a platform to tell you your story. So the first question I want to ask you is, why did you want to come and do this podcast?
Well, to be honest, I think at first I didn't want to. And as my recovery started to improve, I think one of the things about having, a serious illness, and one of the things that you can do to help yourself is and to help your own recovery, is to help others. So when we spoke about doing the podcast, I thought this might be a good experience for me and beneficial for me by reaching out and speaking to other people who might have the same experience of coming to them, and having a cancer diagnosis was like, at first for me, was like having a death sentence, and it turned out it wasn't a death sentence at all. Cancer, the cancers that I had is a highly treatable, highly curable disease, but only if it's got really early. So what I've tried to get the message out during my recovery through Facebook, social media, that sort of thing, to check for certain things. So when you asked me, there was an opportunity to speak to other ADIs, I thought that was a good thing for me personally, that I could go out there, because I think ADIs may be particularly vulnerable for, let's say, neglecting the health or neglecting the subtle symptoms that bowel cancer in particular present, and how you can go through your life being far too busy to be sick, far too busy to take those symptoms seriously. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't for the women in my life, i.e. my wife, my 2 daughters, some of the women friends that I've got, I'd have probably delayed going to my GP even longer. And that's interesting in as much because none of my male friends said, you need to get that checked out. All the women, seemed to be all the women nagging me. And I was going, no, it's just, it's not. If it was serious, I'd be feeling really ill. And the point is that when you're in the early stages of cancer, you're not feeling really ill. You might have some subtle symptoms. And if you can pick up on those symptoms and get those checked out, and hopefully, it turns out to be something innocuous. And if it is something as nasty as cancer, it's your outlook is far, far better if you start the treatment early, and that's what happened to me, and I got incredibly lucky with cancer.
And again, I'm just going to touch on this one more time, because thinking back to the recording I did with Woody a couple of years ago, that was the thing he was saying as well, get this checked out. Even the doctors, they would rather you went and found it was nothing than put it off. And I agree with you that as blokes in particular, we're atrocious for this stuff. I'm same as you, where I've gone to like my, at the time, wife or my mum or whatever, and I've been saying, oh, I've had this and I've had this and I've had this. Have you checked it out? No. Why would I get it checked out? I'm managing okay. But I think we as driving instructors are really bad for this stuff. You mentioned it then. I think you're too busy to be poorly. You're too busy to get checked out. And so I want to go back to the beginning, if you like. Tell me a little bit about your story. Tell me what happened and where it went, essentially.
What, with the cancer diagnosis?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened with me is I started getting subtle symptoms. So my symptoms were I was using the toilet more often. So I was going to the toilet more often, and I just thought that was me because I've always have done. But it creeps up on you. So it's going to the toilet like 4 times a day, and then a couple of weeks later it was 6 times a day, 8 times a day, 10 times a day, and when there was blood in my poop, on the toilet tissue. I know it's not a very nice subject, but a little bit of blood. So you dismiss that. You think, oh, I've probably got hemorrhoids, got piles, probably just got a little bit of a tear there, something. It's not right. It can't be anything because I don't feel ill. So you're sort of ignoring it. And as it happens, one of my daughters is a nurse and a GP. So I phoned her first and said, what do you think? And she said, make a GP appointment right now, and phone me back. And because she knows me, I probably wouldn't. She said, phone me back and tell me when that appointment is, to make sure. I want to know you've made that appointment. That is not normal to have blood in your poo and changing your bowel habits. So I did. So went to the GP and just give me this test. So you get this test. It looks like they give you this pack. It looks like a highlighter pen in an envelope. So you take the highlighter pen home. You take the top off the pen, and it's got like a little spatula. You put a tiniest bit of poo on this spatula, and you stick it back all together in an envelope, in a bag, in an envelope. Goes back to the GP, and hopefully it comes back with clear. What happened with me is about a week later, the GP phoned me and said, "You need to come. You need to go for a colonoscopy. You've got blood in your poo quite a bit, even though it's not visible. It's not visible, so you wouldn't know." I said, "Oh, okay." I didn't even know what a colonoscopy was. But it's a camera up your back passage, flexible camera. Now, if you have to go for one of these, it's not like a painful experience. Went to the hospital, and then you lie it on a trolley, you go in, they even tilt the camera around, the TV round to the bed so you can see. I found it fascinating. They sedate you, so you're not in any pain or anything like that. You feel like you've had a few beers or something. And anyway, they insert this sort of flexible tube, and that goes round into you. And I'm just looking at the screen, thinking, isn't this wonderful? I'm looking at the inside of my own body. And it all looks very nice. It's nice pink tubes. And I'm looking at this camera going down. Oh, this is fantastic. This is like the first time in my life I've seen the inside of my own body. And then out of the darkness come this little, I can only describe it as a growth. And this growth, I could describe it as, it didn't disturb me when I was looking at it, even though I knew there was something not quite right here. It looked like coral, in the sea. If you're watching like a nature program, like one of those Earth programs that David Attenborough does, it's like coral, like waving. It wasn't a horrible thing. It actually looked like a beautiful thing, just blown. And I thought, well, that looks different from the rest. So I said, what's that? And I just heard a voice behind me, and that's the consultant. He said, I'll tell you when we're finished. And even then, under the sedation, I knew something's wrong here. But it never occurred to me that it might be cancer. Anyway, cut a long story short, you take it out, you recovering from the sedation, and then they took me into a room. And in that room, my sister was already sitting there, and my sister had dropped me off. So I knew something was up here because the hospital had obviously phoned my sister to come. And when I went into the rooms, a couple of nurses there and this consultant, I thought, I'm going to get some news here. I can just tell, I can just feel the vibe. And I sat me down. He said, "You've got some issues with your bowel, and quite near your back passage, about 8 centimeters away from your back passage, there's an area that I'm concerned about." So I said, "You're concerned about? Is it cancer?" And he just paused and looked at me and he said, "I believe it is." And from then on, I thought that was a death sentence. And it's like the worst news. It was just like hammer blow. I thought I was finished, to be honest. But it turned out, it turned out that we caught it in time. So it was quite early stages. It was contained within the bowel. So again, cut a long story short, he said, you need surgery. You have to have this removed. The alternative is it will spread and it will limit your life. I think they used the phrase that. So there was no alternative to surgery. So a couple of weeks later, I went into the Liverpool Royal Hospital. Eddie performed the surgery. How they explained it to me, they said your bowel's a bit like a bicycle in a tube. So if you imagine a bicycle if you've ever fixed a puncture on a bike, you've got an inner tube and you've got the valve. Imagine that the valve is the cancer. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut either side of the valve and remove that from your body. And then with the two ends, we're going to put them together and staple them. And then you will be cancer free. So that's what they did, and then that's what happened. So I was very lucky. Got the surgery. They took the cancer away, and what they call a safety margin. You have to take more. They've told me, I'm not out of the woods yet, because if you've had a bowel cancer, you're at high risk on the normal population of getting another one. So, but my prognosis, my outlook, I've been given the percentages. There's 85% chance that I will just live a normal life from now on, and 15% chance that I will develop another cancer. But if I develop another cancer, it will be identified early and it will be treatable as well if I get another cancer in that area. So I feel incredibly lucky that I had the people around me to make me go to the GP, that the GP done the test, that I had the colonoscopy, that I've had the surgery. Although, the surgery, I wouldn't dress this up as anything else. The surgery, the recovery from the surgery is probably the worst experience in my life so far. I'm 9 weeks post-op now, and how can I explain? I just wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but it's survivable. So, and then of course with my surgery, I had an ileostomy, which is you pull a part of the bicycle inner tube that I was telling you about. You pull a part of that through your stomach, just next to your belly button there, and then they fix a bag to you. So while the interior is healing, I pass my waste into a bag. And although that's a life-saving sort of device, which is to work out about £3.12 each, it's an unpleasant thing for me. But I understand. I understand that 1 in 400 people in the UK have a bag like mine. So chances are there's quite a few ADIs out there with the same who've experienced similar. So that's my outlook. I'm very lucky. I'm off on long-term sick at the moment, but I will make a full recovery and I'll come back to driving instruction too.
Your positivity since speaking to you is a joy, and I'm delighted to have you on for multiple reasons. I think we can put that in there. But I want to ask a little bit, because you mentioned about you were on the phone to your daughter, I think you said, and she's kind of pushed you to do it. And it shows to me that how we can't leave things, if we're noticing these symptoms, like you said, you've noticed that you've gone to your daughter, there'll be people out there that wouldn't do that maybe haven't got someone closer to turn to. How important is, and not just necessarily because of something might be cancer, it could be anything, but how important is if someone's noticing symptoms, go and check it out? Is that kind of your big message?
100%. Absolutely 100%. Because my mind was that cancer or serious illnesses didn't happen to people like me, because I'm a non-smoker, and I very occasionally, only on special occasions, would drink alcohol. I mean, my only risk factor is my age, is I'm over 50. That's a risk factor. And also, I do like a bit of food, so technically I'm in the obese section, so that's a risk factor. But other than that, I always thought, well, I didn't always think, but I just genuinely thought that I was low risk. So if I had a change in my bowel habits or blood in my poo, there would be another explanation. It wouldn't be cancer. It'd be another not so serious disease, or something else would be called irritable bowel syndrome or something like that. So that's what happened to me, and I fell into that trap of thinking it happens to other people. And then when you look, it's funny, once you've had a cancer diagnosis. I say it's funny. It's not funny at all. It's interesting, once you've had a cancer diagnosis, how much prevalent cancer is in the community. You pick it up in every news item that comes on the TV. People, as soon as you mention to anyone you've got cancer, nearly every family's been touched by it. In fact, I looked at some statistics that popped up on my feed only a couple of days ago. 50% of Brits will get a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. Now, there's cancer and cancer. There's cancer that's really serious, and there's cancer that's less serious. So, what just goes to show, 1 in 2 people will get a cancer diagnosis. As far as men are concerned, 1 in 15 men will get bowel cancer in their lifetime. 1 in 18 women. So it's really prevalent. It's about, and one of the things I think puts ADIs at risk, in particular PDIs, is because we don't work in an environment where we have like lots of colleagues. Like if you worked in a factory or an office, you'd be chatting to people on the next desk. You'd be bouncing ideas off. If I'd worked in an office, someone would have said to me, "Are you going to the toilet again? You should get that checked out." But because I'm a driving instructor and I just nip home in between the lessons, it never occurred to me that it could be something serious. So I think we are vulnerable because, in a way, we work in an isolated industry.
I think that's a really good point, and it's why I do these sort of episodes sometimes, because this podcast in itself is its own little community. People listen to it between lessons. This is where they get the information from, and hopefully this resonates with some people in a good way. And also with driving instructors, there are risk factors that are not specific to us, but are key to us. You mentioned obesity there. Technically, I'm obese. I think a lot of people, when they hear the word obese, they picture a certain physical shape, but that's not obese. That's not what obese is. Like I said, I'm obese, so picture me, and I'm technically obese, but also sitting down for the long periods. Go onto the NHS website and you can check this out. It says on there that people spend long periods sitting down. That contributes or has a correlation, not necessarily causation, but correlation to, or a higher risk, I should say, of getting some form of cancer. And the advice that they give on that website is the advice I bang out on this podcast all the time. Have a break between lessons. If you're doing a 2-hour lesson, I suppose, in particular, add 10 minutes in between on top of what you've got already, so you can get out and stretch your legs for 10 minutes. And, do you think that we're bad as that as driver. Were you bad for that before as an instructor? I'm not saying this was the reason, obviously, but were you
No.
bad for that, getting out of the car and taking a break, or?
No, I was bad for not being physically active enough. So I'd walk the dog, and I did have a phase of going one of those Fitbits where you measure your steps.
Yeah.
And I have a target, and that fell by the. I had a target of 10,000 steps, and I was doing that, and that fell by the wayside. Everything falls by the wayside. I think you've got to like get some sort of physical activity into your normal day. If it's walking, jogging, maybe playing sport. You mentioned obesity, and we talked about obesity earlier. Some sportsmen, like rugby players, are technically obese, but they're fit as anything.
Yeah.
And I think, as how do you say this politely? We're all getting bigger. We seem to all be getting bigger as a society. We're getting bigger. So when we see an obese person now, the more closer to what we would expect to be normal. See, I look at myself, and I know I'm no oil painting, and I know I'm no athlete, but I don't see an obese person there. I just see someone who's a bit overweight. But technically, when I put the numbers into the NHS website, it comes up on obese, and that has an effect on your health. Maybe it was that a factor in me, because apart from the age, which obviously you can't do nothing about your age, that was the only risk factor that I had, and that was why I was convinced. In fact, I even told my GP I didn't have cancer. I said I haven't got cancer. But if I had cancer, I'd be like losing weight and feeling ill. And he was like, so, when someone, nodding, but they're not agreeing with you.
Yeah.
You never know, son. And it wasn't until later on that I thought, I remember that body language signal when I was telling him I didn't have cancer. And he was sort of, you never, but I suppose GPs, if the numbers are so prevalent, like I said, like 50% of all Brits will get a cancer diagnosis, they must see it all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas I hardly ever seen it, because I blanked it out as something that happened to other people.
Yeah, it's true. Do you know what, we do this with so much? I've been talking about, road safety a lot on this series, and you think about people on the roads, as driving instructors, we see this all the time. What happened to me? You have that discussion with your learners. What happened to me? But I know, speaking to you before we recorded this, one of the big things that you didn't want to do today was scare people.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, please, yeah. I mean, we know, but I've learned so much in the 9 weeks since my in the 3 months since my diagnosis. But we know that men in particular are less likely to go to the doctors for whatever reason. Don't know what that is. I don't understand it, but I'm guilty of it myself. I don't understand it, but I'm guilty of it, or I was guilty of it. All the experience that I had, although it was difficult and unpleasant, it was necessary, and it wasn't. It was nothing. I haven't even been in any pain, really. I haven't been in any pain. When you go on what they call the cancer pathway, the care that you get, it's just out of this world. It's just top notch. From the moment I got the diagnosis, and you know how hard it is to access the NHS sometimes. Even getting a GP appointment, it can be a challenge, and that can be a barrier. Because you've got to get on the phone, or but in mine, you can request it, an appointment by email now, which is better, because you don't have to sit on the phone at 8 o'clock every morning. But that can be a barrier, just trying to get appointments. Well, what I would say is, to anyone listening to this, is that the treatment, if it's anything like mine, it's unpleasant, but it's bearable, and it's potentially life-saving.
I think the other thing that you were mentioning before about sending in a stool sample, basically, and I'm trying to phrase this tactfully. When I think of that, I always had the image that they'd send you a carrier bag, and you had to fill the carrier bag and send it in. Yeah, but the way you make that sound doesn't sound anything like that at all.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. I mean, listen, poo's not the nicest subject, but it's an important subject. it's the amount of specimen they need to test. It's I can't tell you how small it is. It's like it's smaller than a pea, like a garden pea. It's smaller, much smaller than that. It's just a scraping. It's a tiny scraping. It shouldn't be embarrassing. It shouldn't be taboo. I mean, what's there's 7 billion people in the world, and all of them go for a poo. Let's face it. It's the most normal thing in the world.
I'm just thinking about all the other times I've spoken shit on this podcast, none of them are as relevant as today. But there you go. But even I just want to touch back on the. Tell me if I get this correct. The colonoscopy. Is that the right term? Yeah.
That's the camera up. That's the camera up your bum.
Yeah. I've never had that. When I've heard it mentioned, it sends shivers down my spine. I'm like, bloody hell, that sounds unpleasant. That, but the way you described that,
I was anxious as hell. But I can tell you, it's certainly not painful. You feel a bit of pressure in your back passage, and then in your bowel, there's no nerve endings in your bowel, which is another thing I've learned. So once it's in your back passage, you don't feel anything, and absolutely nothing, no pain, no sensation. Well, I didn't. My experience, it wasn't an unpleasant experience. It was, and of course, that might have been down to the sedation. The sedation's great because it makes you feel a bit woozy. Like I was saying before, like you've had a couple of pints. Not that I drink a couple of pints anymore, but that's what it feels like. So I wouldn't say if anyone needs a colonoscopy, it's just a brilliant tool for identifying cancer and identifying cancer early. And then the great thing is when they go in there with the camera, if they see something like they seen on mine, they take a biopsy. So they can take a biopsy. I had some polyps as well. They removed them while I was there. Polyps are little sort of anomalies that live in your bowel. I don't understand that. But they can become cancerous if left unchecked. They need to be checked. So they removed a lot of polyps and they took a biopsy of my cancer. And then the next day, they had a diagnosis for me. So honestly, it's a couple of hours out your day. You feel a bit groggy and feel a bit up, but it wasn't painful in any way. So if you've got to go for a colonoscopy, trust me, I can tell you from my experience, it's nothing to be afraid of. And I was anxious as hell because I didn't fancy. I just imagine, you think the camera's going to be like, a big fat hose pipe or something. It's a little thin sort of cable. It's like a bicycle cable. Honestly, it's nothing. So if you need a colonoscopy, please go and get one.
I'll completely understand if you don't want to talk about this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Because I spoke to you the other day, and you were saying how you don't feel like a hero. You don't want to give that impression of that you're a hero in this situation. I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what you mean there, because it surprised me when you said that.
Well, I'm not a hero. I know you hear not a lot of people. You hear in the media, people will say, "Oh, he's beat cancer," or "He's fighting cancer." I don't see myself in a fight. I don't see myself beating cancer. All I did was lucky enough to recognize the symptoms and present them to the NHS. It was the NHS that if I have beat cancer, and I'm not counting all my chickens just yet. If I have beat cancer, it's not me who's beaten cancer. It's the NHS who's beaten it on my behalf. I don't feel, cancer patients might call each other warriors. I don't feel like a warrior in that sense. I do in as much as recovering from the surgery, because recovering from the surgery is difficult. You need to, I just pray for the people who don't have the support network. I have a wonderful family. I have an incredible family, and not everyone is as lucky as me in that way. So that's twice I've been lucky in this respect. So there's that. I mean, I'm thinking of all the times I've been lucky. I mean, an ileostomy operation 100 years ago, most people were dying during that procedure. If you're going to get cancer, this is a good. If you've got to get a horrible critical horrible disease. This is a good time in history to get it because, survival rates in my lifetime have doubled. Treatments, medications for cancer are improving all the time. If I'd have been born 100 years ago, my outlook would have been a lot worse. So I feel I don't feel courageous or brave in any stretch, by any stretch of the imagination. I feel incredibly lucky, and to be honest, that's the truth. I was lucky to get to be diagnosed. I was lucky to be born in this era. I was lucky to have the Royal Liverpool Hospital on my doorstep. I was lucky to have my family around me. I've been incredibly lucky.
And what would betide me to disagree with you, but I am going to disagree with you slightly, because I think what you're doing now is pretty special. Look at yourself and Woody, who I mentioned before, was on a couple of scenes ago, that are coming onto this podcast specifically to talk to ADIs and say, look, this could be an issue. Go and get it sorted. Go and get it checked out. And I would like to think that hopefully, even if it's just one person, someone listening will either think, oh, I have got this symptom, I best go get it checked out, or it'll stick in their brain. And then a few years down the line, if something develops, I'll go, hold on, what were it Jimmy said? I've best go get this. And I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, or there might be an ADI who's not suffering those symptoms, but maybe their wife or their husband is suffering those symptoms, and I've just heard Ginny speak about that. Maybe put that up the priority list, because going to the GP when you're not feeling that ill is low on your priorities. There's always 100 things in front of that, isn't there? So there might be people out there who are suffering those symptoms and have now, who now might take some action, or they might know someone who's suffering those symptoms.
Yeah, but you're also talking quite public about it on social media as well, and kind of throwing stuff out there, including Brave the Shave. Tell us about Brave the Shave and what you're doing with Brave the Shave.
Oh, thanks for asking me about this. I feel so. With cancer treatment, that some cancer treatments, the cancer patients lose the hair. That's part of the chemotherapy in particular. I'm not in that group. I'm not going to lose my hair. But during my journey, my cancer journey, if you like, I was supported on a couple of occasions, really importantly, by the Macmillan nurses and the Macmillan charity, cancer charity, and they were absolutely brilliant with me in the time between diagnosis, because you get your diagnosis, but you don't know whether it's spread. So you've got a period of time where you've got cancer, but you don't know how bad, and if it's spread, you've got a life limit, and chances are you've got a life limit in disease. Chances are, not definitely, chances are. So that period of time is really stressful, and so demand phone lines, I had to use them, and I was in a mess, like couldn't think straight, and he helped me get on track. Also, they have a Macmillan nurse we do in our GPs, and she helped me an awful lot. Brought me in for a meeting. Explained a lot of my emotions and why I was so low at the time, and also financially, they helped me financially, because when you get a diagnosis and you can't work, I mean, I couldn't work because of my mental state straight away. As soon as I got my diagnosis, couldn't work. So as an ATI, my income had stopped completely. So you're in a nightmare scenario, because your income stopped. You might be claiming for benefits or claiming on insurance, and there's a time lapse in between there. And the added stress of the financial burden on you makes you even sicker. So straight away, I went into the Macmillan nurses at my GP, and brilliant, sorted all the forms out, get you all your prescriptions for free. So you're exempt from prescriptions once you've got a cancer diagnosis. And they also give me £350 straight away, straight into my bank. And I know £350 is a relatively small amount of money, but at that time, it really touched me. It was really like an act of kindness. So Brave the Shave, to get back onto the subject, is, as I was saying, some cancer patients lose the hair. I'm not going to be in that category, but Macmillan run this thing where you can shave all your hair off, basically for the fun of it. Okay, just so I'm going to shave all my hair off in support of the cancer charity, in support of Macmillan, in the hope that all my friends, and I know they will all chip in a quid or two, whatever they can. Now I know people are asking for charity all the time, and I don't want to impose on anybody. So if you can't, don't, and don't feel bad about it, because we're in a cost of living crisis, and I don't want anyone to feel bad about this. But if you can throw a quid in, that'd be great.
No, I think that I like that you've touched on that at the end as well, because we are in a cost of living crisis and people are struggling. So, as you just said, and I would back this up, I don't want anyone to put themselves out, because I'm going to be raising funds in January for my own personal thing. And I'll be talking about that then. If you cannot afford to donate, do not feel obliged to donate. And I think that's important to say. But what I will also say is I'll put the links for your stuff where people can donate in the show notes for this episode. So anyone wants to donate and laugh at you shaving your hair off on Christmas Eve, they can do. What I'll also say is that anyone that signs up to the Instructor Podcast Premium in December, whether that's for 1 month, a year, or whichever tier you sign up for, I'll donate a fiver of that to your charity.
You're a wonderful man.
There's 2 people already signed up this month, so that's a tenner for you.
That's brilliant, isn't it? It's brilliant. I just hope that the next family who are touched by cancer will go in there and there'll be enough fun. We can support other people, because I can't stress enough how much the financial burden affects your physical health as well. You're absolutely out of your mind when you get a diagnosis like that, when you can't work, especially if you're self-employed. Now, luckily for me, I was insured, and I know insurance. Can I talk about insurance?
Yeah, go for it. I know that's something you want us to get across today. Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So I know insurance companies sometimes get a bad sort of get a bad press, don't they? Because the idea is, or the common perception is that insurance companies will try and not pay you out, and they'll look for loopholes and not pay out. I've got to tell you, with my experience, 2 insurance companies I had a critical illness cover which sort of tracked me mortgage, and I had an income insurance policy. Basically, I bought that case, broke a leg and couldn't work for a few weeks or something. Both of those insurance companies have paid me out, and the critical. I can name the company if you don't mind, because they were absolutely AIG were absolutely excellent. When I got the cancer diagnosis, 1 phone call, a form to fill in, and then every week they'd email me, say, we've got your form. We're trying to contact your doctor. We need the medical evidence. Once we've got the medical evidence, we will assess your claim and let you know. And they did that all the time. And it's really hard for them to contact the consultants, because consultants are really busy doing other things. So they would email me all the time saying, I want you to know, we're on this. You don't have to worry. You don't have to contact us. We're on it, and we're not going to let it settle until we've got the medical evidence. Please don't worry. They were really reassuring with that. And then, as soon as they got the medical evidence, within a couple of days of getting the medical evidence, phoned me and said, we've agreed your claim. We're going to pay. We're going to pay you out. And as I say, my insurance policy tracked me mortgage, so I could pay my mortgage off. I'd always wished to be mortgage free, but I never wished to be like this.
Yeah.
And if I could have my health back, I'd much rather have my health back. But the message I get across is, right, I'm 57 years old. Buying that insurance policy at the time is the best financial decision I ever made in my life, because immediately, once you got the security of you and your family, you've got the security of the roof above your head. You feel physically healthier. The other insurance company pays me out, quite a small amount actually, but it's monthly. It's a regular income, because the benefits that you're entitled to, I'd find really difficult living on them. How anyone lives on the benefits alone, I don't know. So, message I would say is, if you haven't got loads of money saved up for something like this, consider buying an insurance policy to cover your mortgage, your rent, and also loss of income, especially if you're like the main breadwinner in the house. Because if you do get an illness or a serious illness like I got, it can compound your problems. And for me, having the financial weight off my shoulders was such a relief, and I'm sure aided me recovery. Is aiding my recovery.
I know you mentioned earlier on about that initial the stress you felt about it financially, that you're going to have to stop work and all that kind of stuff. So couldn't imagine how that felt. And I suppose it's the sort of thing, those insurance policies that you never actually want to use, but they're good there for when something like this does happen.
Yeah. You never want to use. You resent the the payments coming out each month a bit. I remember thinking that's just money down the drain now. But I didn't cancel it because the week after cancelling it, something had happened. It just must be my luck. Do you know what I mean? So I've paid them religiously over the years, and I'm just so glad it did. And particularly as an ADI, because you're like usually self-employed, aren't you? Nearly all of us are self-employed. We haven't got the benefit of a big employer sick pay. We haven't got that safety net. So definitely if you haven't got a lot of savings or a plan or a strategy, if something like this happens, I would say definitely look at that, because I promise you it's the best financial decision I ever made.
A word you've used a lot today is support. You've talked about the support you've had, and like with your family, with the doctors, with the insurance, and it just strikes me that a lot of that you're in charge of, because as you mentioned, it's quite a lonely profession at times. We don't have that day-to-day banter with people, but so we can't always surround ourselves with people at work. We can't always surround ourselves with family. Not everyone has that family, but you look at where you've put that support in by going to the doctors. And I can't remember if you told me on this episode, whether you told me previously, but I know you were saying you were getting calls from people almost every day, from hospital doctors, that kind of stuff. And you were getting their mobile numbers and told you could ring them at any time. So
it's brilliant. Once you're on if you're on the cancer pathway, or my experience, once you're on that cancer pathway, the support is just unbelievably good. My experience was unbelievably good. So I was getting like nurses' mobile numbers that I could call them at any time. There was always someone I could call. But it'd be unusual for 2 days to go by without me getting a call from the hospital over something. And it might be something just to check something, or just check how it was, reassurance call, all sorts. And then, when I went in for the operation itself, the staff at the Liverpool Royal Hospital, they are out of this world. I'm going to get emotional now.
Take your time.
Right, okay now.
I think with that support, it's obviously come from others, and we can't always control what support we can get, but we can instigate. So you've instigated that support by going initially and making an appointment at your GP. That started the ball rolling to get the support from there. You've got the financial support by, taking your insurance policies. There's other things we could do as instructors as well. So whether that's getting in part of the community, whether that's a national association or a local association, whether it's just a group of instructors, whether it's getting part of the podcast community, whatever it is. So how important is it do you think that it was that you started that ball rolling to get that support, but also that anyone, other instructors can do that now? We don't have to wait until something's wrong. We can get involved in those type of communities and areas now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. I think you give me more credit than I actually deserve. A lot of things for me were, were in place anyway. And I hadn't really sort of, I don't feel like I sort of design. I just feel like, my family's support. I'm very lucky. God, my wife is just out of this world. 2 grown-up daughters out of this world. A young son, 15-year-old boy, out of this world. I could go on and on. I just, my GP. I mean, and I didn't mention this before, right? But that I was telling you about, the poo sample that you put on the little stick on the first one went missing. Okay, that's the only thing that's gone wrong. Okay, first one went missing. So the GP was chased that up to me, and I wasn't going. I was, it's gone miss. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. If he hadn't chased that up and made me come in and get another one, I might be sitting here with cancer and not realise I've got cancer, and it might be all over my body by now. So you seem to think that I have engineered some, at least some of my outcome. I don't really feel that way at all. I feel. Apart from buying the insurance policies, they're the only things that I actually actively done just in case the worst happens. Everything else was sort of, I feel incredibly lucky about.
I get that. I do get that. But I think you also start the ball rolling in some ways. Like you said, even just by speaking to your daughter that first time, how many people don't do that? How long did it take you to do that? And I think starting the ball rolling in that sense.
You mentioned before about poo, being a bit of a taboo subject. I think maybe men in particular might have difficulty going to a health professional and talking about poo and talking about. I bet this is the first time this has been mentioned on the podcast. And the word anus. I bet the word anus has never been mentioned before. People find it difficult to go in there, go into the doctor and say, "I've got a cut on my anus." Do you know that? And I think some people have difficulty with that. And to be honest, I used to a degree, but since I've had bowel cancer, and more specifically cancer of the rectum, okay, because you're speaking to health professionals all the time about these things, you become desensitized to that. So I talk about poo as if it's nothing. I talk about me back. I usually use the word back passage, but anus or anything like on me bowel or rectum. You become less sensitive to that sort of language when you're in amongst it. You know what I mean? Because the doctors and the nurses are talking about it like we're talking about, the breaking the clutch. It's just the breaking the clutch to them.
Well, I think you're right. I think that is the first time it's mentioned. And when I do the Instructor Podcast Awards at the end of the year, you will win the award for first mention of the word anus. You haven't spoken as much crap as Chris Spence did, so he still takes
No
that.
way. Oh, I love Chris. Got to tell, can I just say, Chris has been a good friend to me. Although I've never met Chris, he's been a good friend to me. He's been like, he helped me with with me driving school when I was running some ideas about changing the way, and he helped me with that. And I don't know if I should tell you this. I had to should I let you into a secret?
What, me and the 2,000 people listening? Yeah, go for it.
So I'm a 57-year-old driving instructor. I've had a driving license since I was about 19. Never had any problems. Okay. And you might not even believe this story, but I promise you it's true. And in the time between my diagnosis and me operation, got quite low. We were in a bit of a depressed state. And I didn't leave the house very much at all. So, and then what happened is I noticed there was a band that I follow from your neck of the woods playing in Ripon. They're playing like this community centre in Ripon. So I said to Elaine, should we nip over there? It's only an hour and a half drive. We could stay over, okay, and bed and breakfast or hotel or something. And we could watch this band. And then the next day we could drive back. That sounds all very well. By this time, my cancer had progressed a little. I was getting some more, let's say, problematic symptoms. Okay, you're not going to leave this today. So on the way back from Ripon, I was driving on the motorway, and I had a bit of a back passage accident, and I was aware. I was driving. I thought, fuck. What to do? It was in September, so it was a bit of a heat. Can you imagine the heat? We had that heat. It was hot. It's not my air conditioner doesn't work in my car. My poor wife. So I'm driving and I'm thinking, I said, I can't stop in a service station because I don't know what the state of my pants are like. So I'm just going to get home as quick as I can. So what do? Down the motorway and get 3 points at £100 fine. How bad's that?
I'll be honest, I don't know how to respond to that.
I'm professionally ashamed of myself, but I couldn't really do anything else. So I took some legal advice, And they said, you have got special measures, and if you want to go in front of the magistrate, they may look favourably on you and write it off and just say don't do it again, or they might not look favourably and give you a worse penalty, more than 3 points and more than it could be up to £1,000 fine. So I thought, what do I do? And I thought, well, I'm too ill to go and defend my case at the magistrates anyway. So I wrote to the police and told them the circumstances. And they said, they wrote back a nice letter saying, we're really sorry about your health condition and stuff like that, but we are going to, press the charges or whatever it is. So I had to take the 3 points and £100 fine. So I've had to let the DVS say no. So if they're listening, could you look dead favourably on me, please? Because I want to stay on the register. Can't stay on the register. I don't know what I'll do, because the only thing I've ever been any good at in life is teaching people to drive. So
I'll have a word with Loveday for you. See what I can do. Yeah.
Listen, I'm professionally ashamed of myself, to be honest. But at the same time, if it happens again, I'd do the same.
You know what? It's one of those things where it's not just, correct me if I'm wrong here, please, by all means, but it's not just the instant that's occurred. Think about what's going on in your brain at that time.
Oh.
You've just told me that you've been at home. Yeah.
You're completely on it, Terry.
You've been at home all that time, almost.
Yeah.
Excuse the word, but wallowing a little bit. And then you take yourself out that one time.
Wallowing is a good word. And, with the benefit of hindsight, I probably shouldn't have drove a car. I shouldn't have drove a car for 90 minutes there and 90 minutes back. I probably shouldn't, but I let myself down. Well, I let myself down. I was in a difficult situation. Don't know.
I think it shows you human.
What can I say?
I think that's what it shows.
Life, I've never. I can't stop thinking. It's bothered me a lot. It's bothered me a lot. I can't stop thinking about it. I suppose we're all human, aren't we?
I mean, for me, it's one of those situations where I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, I can condone driving whatever speed you did down the motorway, because of course I'm not. But on the flip side of that, it's completely understandable. And I think that's the thing, you think about when we talk to students on lessons sometimes, and the example I'll use, someone goes flying past them and the student will start, kicking off or complaining, and I'll say, where are they going? And they'll say, I don't know. I'll say, what if they've just found out their partner's been rushed to hospital?
Yeah.
And they'll think about
it. You're onto it there. It's even on the standards checks, something like, words, I can't remember the exact words, but words to the effect of you don't judge other drivers or other road users. I will never look at another speeding driver, and I will be completely neutral from now until I know the full story.
I love that.
So in a way, there's a learning experience for me.
I love that. It's not condoning it; it's understanding it, and I think there's a massive difference. And it's like you just said, being non-judgmental. You're not holding judgment on them.
I'm trying to find the standards check marking sheet to see what it is. What is it? It's one of the 17 things. What is it? Right. Did the trainer maintain an appropriate non-discriminatory manner throughout the session? That's it. A non-discriminatory. Sorry, it would have done me head in until I got that.
I love that you got the competency to hand. But
if you look at my desk, if I turned around my desk, you've got receipts, money, not lots, kitchen roll, a bike in a tube, some tablets, a calculator, all manner of health supplies. So I can tell you, having a standards check sheet is not unusual. There could be anything on this desk.
Well, my desk contains a notepad and pen and the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. So there you go.
Tell me more about that.
let's leave H.P. Lovecraft for another day.
Are we going away?
We are indeed. Because I want to come back just a little bit to your driving school. You as a driving instructor. And I just want to ask you a little bit how that was. Because like you said, you had to stop working. So how did you manage that with your students?
But something you alluded to before, I'd changed the way I'd been running my driving school and running my driving lessons. So I didn't have a lot of pupils on my books at the time because they were all on my rapid development course. So I only had, I think, 5 pupils. So it wasn't a big class to sort out. My problem was all 5 of those people had all paid a lot of money for a rapid development course. So I had to give them the option of having a pro rata refund. So that was all the money back minus the training that they had. And that was difficult because all of them took the refund. And one person said, and I'll tell you what, I'll just hang on for as long as it takes. And when you're better, I want you to be my driver. So what a lovely thing to say to someone.
Yeah.
You can't get better than that, can you? And that's no disrespect to the 4 who had to go, because all 4 who had to go were, had to have a driving license for one reason or another. You can't expect, or I don't expect, and no, should anyone expect anyone to put someone's life on hold because I got ill. So so because they'd all paid, they paid for their course up front, which was 1,700 quid each. So I refunded all that money, which was a difficult thing to do because I'd spent a lot of time trying to promote my rapid development course and selling my course, and there was a lot of people. I don't offer the course to everyone, so in a way, my market's quite small. So I put a lot of work into that prior to taking them on. Marketing that course, and they were lovely people as well, and they were great pupils, and just the chemistry in the car between us, and the way I was teaching to drive. I'd sort of been a driving instructor for a long time, over 20 years now, and felt like I'd put a spring in my step because it changed the way it worked, and I was enjoying the job again. So 2 things was bad there. I had to give refunds when I was basically on my arse, and I had to find instructors for these 4 lovely people who were all taking tests in the next couple of months now, got a couple of weeks even.
Well, I may get you back on another time to discuss your rapid development course, because I know I dropped you a message when you first started doing it saying you want to come and talk about it, and obviously we never got around to it, but that fascinates me. But we'll maybe leave that for another episode, because I do just want to ask where you're at now. Is there a plan to get back into it? Is there any kind of date penciled in, or is it just, are you sitting back and seeing what occurs?
No, I'm concentrating fully on my health. I'm not doing anything else but concentrating on my health right now. I have good days and bad days. I'm having a good day today. The bad days are pretty bad. So the idea of getting back to work right now is something that's not even on the horizon for me at the moment. I've got some problems. I've got some physical problems with having a stoma, having a bag. I'm only 9 weeks post-op, so that's supposed to be. I suppose that's to be expected. But I've got some psychological problems with having a stoma and a bag. And the idea of being in close proximity of another person in a car at the moment with, call it as it is. It's a bag of poo sellotape to your belly. That idea just fills me with dread at the moment. So I can go out. I can converse with people, but I can't be in close proximity to people for too long because my head won't allow me to. I can't even explain it myself. There's something going on in my head about that. If there must be other ADIs out there who are ostomates, ostomate like collective term for people who have a stoma and a bag. I think it's about 40,000 ADIs, something like that.
Yeah.
And there must be ADIs out there who have, they might have better experiences than me, or they might have a similar experience when they were first, going through. So for me, I can't get back to work. I do want to get back to work. get back to my rapid development driving course. I can't say when. I was saying I have some problems with me bag, and I am going to get that reversed. I am a candidate for reverse, so long as I've got to have some tests. If they go well, I can have my bag reversed, but I've got to wait till March 2025 for that. I want to get back to work before then, obviously, but like at the moment, I can't be in close proximity to other people other than my family or people who know me, who know I've got a bag. I couldn't be in close proximity to a stranger at the moment because my mind just goes onto my bag and is it going to leak? Is it going to fall off? Is it going to? Does it smell? All those sorts of things. Maybe that'll get better with time. I'm seeing a psychologist, so maybe I'll get some help with that. So I'll be back to driving instruction one day.
Well, one thing you've said repeatedly through this episode is how lucky you are and how lucky you are to have your family around you, the support you've had, all that kind of stuff. And while I don't doubt that, I think that they are also lucky to have you. And I feel very lucky to have had you on the show today. So thank you for joining me. Is there any kind of final message or anything you want to get out to drive instructors, or do you want to take a moment to remind them about the Brave the Shave thing you're doing, or?
Well, I think we've covered everything. I mean, if you can support the Brave the Shave, that's brilliant. I mean, don't put loads of money in or anything like that. Just £1 or £2. I'm not trying to, raise thousands and thousands. Just if I raise a couple of £100, I'll be made up. Or if I can raise 350, which is what the standard sort of payment people get who immediately get cancer, which it's surprising how many unexpected costs come straight away. Like bedding, pajamas, even hospital parking, all that sort of thing. You can be surprised the cost spiral when you're ill. So that'd be great if you could do that. No, my main message is always is that God bless everyone who's got cancer. If you get symptoms, please get checked out early. Cancer is not necessarily a death sentence. Cancer is often, if caught early enough, a highly treatable and even curable disease. So don't be frightened of it. Stand up to it. Go and see GP.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I hope everyone takes heed of that message. And I don't know if this is the right phrase, but I'm going to use it. I've really enjoyed this conversation today. I've taken things from it. So, big thank you for joining me today, Jimmy.
I've enjoyed your company, and I always do, Terry. You're a gentleman. You're a lovely man. I really appreciate you asking me on. I feel like I've made it. I've actually got on the Terry Cook Show, the Michael Parkinson of the ADI world. I feel like Billy Connolly.
Yeah, the Terry Cook Show. Oh, that's coming 2024 now. The Terry Cook Show, not the Instructor Podcast.
The Terry Cook Show on. I'd buy that.
No, thank you for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome, Terry. I hope you found it at least interesting, and I hope I haven't depressed the shit out of you.
Well, I'm finishing laughing, so you can't.
Good lad. Yeah. Up the pool.
So a big thank you to Jimmy there for coming and sharing his story. It's I find it quite inspiring. I hope you guys do too, and I hope you guys take away that message of, try to look after yourselves a bit more. I understand how things are at the minute. Trust me, I'm in the same boat. That we wanting to work all the hours that God can send, and why should we take the time between lessons and blah 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 blah. But I think that we do need to look after ourselves a bit where we can. Even myself, you've probably heard me talk before about how between lessons I have a longer break, and that's true, I do, but I'm also guilty of staying in the car a lot when I do it. Now, yes, I might joke about doing car park yoga sometimes, but too often I find myself on my phone doing social media or doing admin, that kind of stuff. So I need to make sure I'm getting out of the vehicle a bit more in between lessons. So, hopefully you've taken something from that, and hopefully you found it a little bit enlifting as well. But I want to speak just briefly about James's Brave the Shave campaign that he's doing for Macmillan Charity. You may have heard me say in the show there that anyone that signs up to Instructor Podcast Premium throughout December will have, £5 off their sign-up fee donated to Macmillan. That's not quite right. It's 50% of the sign-up fee. So if you sign up to the £22 tier, you'll get £11 donated. So anyone that signs up in December, anyone that signed up already, or anyone that signs up as a result of this episode, will get that donated. That's whether you stay for a month, a year, or 10 years, or whatever. You will get this month's fee donated, as I've just mentioned. But I do also just want to touch on the charity thing. You may have heard me talking with Chris Spencer on the recent episode, The Green Room, about this. There is an element of charity fatigue out there, and I fully understand it. I really do. Jimmy was really eloquent in saying that he doesn't expect anyone to pay. If you've got a spare £1, that'd be lovely, but he's not expecting anything from anyone. I'm the same. In January, I'm going to be raising money for motor neuron disease. I'm going to be doing 15,000 steps a day for that. It'd be lovely if anyone could donate in January, but if you can't, it's completely fine. You need to look after yourself, as we've spoken about on this episode. If you can spare a couple of quid for Macmillan or whichever charity you choose to donate to, amazing. If you can't, please don't feel obliged. But you could also raise awareness other ways. So sharing this podcast is a way. We've clearly spoken about cancer, about recovery, about how to look after yourself, about Macmillan. We've spoken about this on today's episode. So great way to raise awareness, or even just to share the charity pages or the fundraiser of someone else. So if you see Jimmy talking about it on Facebook, for example, you could share that and encourage others to do the same. So it doesn't always have to be donating. We can do something. And as a last resort, sometimes best wishes or a little message just saying well done on your efforts or something like that goes a long way as well. So just want to say one more time, big thank you for listening today, especially if you listened all the way to the end. I can imagine how these type of episodes can be quite draining potentially to listen to, but big thank you for listening. And remember, let's just keep raising standards.
The Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.